Good evening. This is Maestro Quatella with the Dawn of War II Retribution Elite modcast. Our first player today is Adila, playing as the Eldar Warlock. The Eldar Warlock is a melee hero. He can become a bit of a spellcaster if you choose to get him out that way, or he can become more of a tanky melee hero. Right now he's fighting hand-to-hand and sword-to-sword with the Space Marine Apothecary, knocks him over. And he's got a nice pair of moose antlers, as we can see. Next up, we got GiDDoLo, if we can target him properly, playing as an Uthway DLC Farseer. The Farseer is also a melee hero, however, she is not really a dedicated melee hero, she just fights in melee. She focuses more on using her spells and abilities for buffing, debuffing, as well as control and disabling. Next up, we got NoisyElmo playing as the Space Marine Apothecary. NoisyElmo, these days, pretty much one of the best players around, and haven't seen him play too much of the Apothecary, but he's really just a good all-around player who plays kind of everything, and lately it's been the Apothecary. Healing hero, who, not such a great fighter, but mostly focuses on healing. And then finally, we got Uncle Milty playing as this sneaky orc commando knob, invisible at the moment. He can come out of infiltration, use a variety of guns, explosives, as well as even a knife. It looks like Red Team, Noisy, and Uncle Milty very handily taking the early map control, although this Apothecary choosing to actually get away from the victory point, doesn't capture it, and he's going towards the middle to, I don't know, do what? He could focus on trying to get that VP, but right here we do have Shooter Boys engaging, or rather Dire Avengers shooting up some Shooter Boys. I don't know why Uncle Milty doesn't just engage here. He definitely has the advantage in terms of range firepower. His double Shooter Boys, even without any upgraded weapons or squad leaders, along with the Kommando knob, would win against the Dire Avengers. And the Dire Avengers at this point are getting forced off just from a few bursts from that Kommando knob's big twin-link shooter. Meanwhile, over here, we got some Howling Banshees that are chasing after some scouts, but scouts are faster, so they will just run away. In fact, the Howling Banshees stop the chase, and now they start bashing on this power. And if you notice, they're actually taking very, very little damage from these scouts, and that in part has to do with scouts having relatively low DPS. But then there's also something that I believe, it's been a while since I've heard anyone talk about it, but I believe when a unit is in the middle of actually attacking in melee, that unit actually gets a damage resistance. They actually get damage resistance when they're in melee, meaning a melee unit that's in the middle of fighting in melee gets some kind of damage resistance. So I think that's part of the reason why those scouts were doing almost nothing with their bolters. Alright, meanwhile over here we have some orcs bashing power. Now, Shooter Boys, one of them does have their big shooters, so we have a lot of ranged DPS coming out of these orcs, especially with the Kommando knob as well. I think even with... Ooh, now this is actually precarious positioning. And you know what? I really like the use of that stun bomb, because those Shooter Boys were in a very, very precarious position where they could have risked getting wiped, especially this one that still only has 2 models left. Could have gotten wiped by this squad of Howling Banshees in retreat had Uncle Milty not used that stun bomb as well as he did. Now, if we notice, Noisy has actually gone for a very light build. He's only gone for 2 scouts, however, he is fully investing in them. They already have squad leaders, they also have shotguns, and we see them upgrading to get infiltration as well. And I think that's very interesting. I also think there are a lot of things that are very good about it. First of all, what I like about, and especially we also have the purification rights. So one of the things I like about what Noisy is doing, oh my god, what a juicy grenade. He's making a build that is going to be very, very effective at countering the Howling Banshees, which are normally such a huge threat from Eldar. And one of the things that sometimes people get screwed by is when they don't respect a certain kind of unit or threat enough, and they end up paying for it, getting hurt very hard by it, in part because they just didn't invest in things to counter it. Right now, Noisy is really investing in getting things to counter the Howling Banshees, so the Howling Banshees will probably be a lot less effective. Because Noisy really just has quite overwhelming counters. He has double shotgun scouts, and he's also got the purification rights on the Apothecary, so he's going to be very, very good at controlling these Banshees, which are normally something that are really just so scary. Might have a grenade attempt right here. Seem to be a little slow on that grenade attempt. I think that one's going to miss. Meanwhile, up over here, We have Slugger Boys in a lot of trouble. That could be the end of the Slugger Boy squad if we don't have some aiming what's that or a stun bomb. There we go, some aiming what's that to save them. And I mean, just good saves from Milty. I like the way he's playing right now. He's had some close calls with these Howling Banshees, but he's using the tools that he has available to him to help control the Howling Banshees. So I think both of these players right now, NoisyElmo and Milty, are really doing what they're actually supposed to do with their respective races to actually deal with Howling Banshees. And these are a unit that, the Howling Banshees are just a unit that it's very, very powerful. It's something that people always complain is overpowered, and they are a very, very powerful unit that can really do some nasty things. But there are ways to handle them, and both of these players, Noisy and Milty, are actually doing what they need to handle it. And I like to see that. Alright, over here we have some more shotguns. Probably going to do a shotgun blast right here. Maybe, yep, shotgun blast right there. Prevents another model from dying. And it makes the Banshees also take a lot of damage. One of the great things, one thing that's kind of underrated and maybe not as known as well, even though it makes very logical sense, is that one of the great things about getting shotgun scouts and the sergeant is that you get another shotgun. And that may seem obvious again, but the implications of that are that these scouts right now are actually doing quite a bit of damage. And I don't know what the exact figures are, and the damage actually changes depending on the range that the scouts are shooting at. The closer they are, the more damage they do. But at close, they actually... This is arguably a high DPS unit, these shotgun scouts. Certainly, their damage potential is much, much higher than when they have their bolters. And although a sniper scout would do high burst damage, these scouts are actually kind of doing high DPS. And when you just get an extra shotgun there, you're basically giving the squad a 33% damage increase. And these shotguns, again, are quite a bit more powerful. Now, it only says 14.67 DPS, but there's a lot more that's going on with the scouts doing more damage the closer you get to them. Now, Noisy and Uncle Milty actually losing quite significantly on VPs, despite the fact that they had that opening map control. Right now, they appear to have more of the map. Grenades going in, kills one scout model. That was actually kind of a close call. I was actually fearing a bit for those scouts, although the scout sergeant is much, much tougher than the individual scout models. He actually has 250 health, which is quite a bit compared to the 140 of the regular scout models. War Truck now out for Uncle Milty. And we have some Storm Boys and some Slugger Boys coming right out of there. Now, those Storm Boys and Slugger Boys are going to be doing a huge amount of damage, and they can also reinforce. I think I was going to say they might just have to be careful about Howling Banshees getting a special attack off, but it didn't happen that time, so the Storm Boys and the Slugger Boys just won with much bigger DPS. Wow, look at the aggressiveness of that play right there. I think it's now time for Milty to back off, though. So he just put on a lot of pressure, and he does have a very big army that he can do that with. Meanwhile, Noisy has to be very, very careful. He's got a Bright Lance shooting at his Razorback. He did get a Razorback, but Adila just upgraded his Guardian weapon team to a Bright Lance cannon, and this Razorback is actually taking a lot of damage. Now, of course, getting a double scout build and actually investing in your scouts is actually a very good way of preparing for a Razorback, since it actually synergizes quite well with the Razorback, because you get the shotgun support that you can use to blast away any melee units that try to attack your Razorback, and you also get that repair support. So they're very good at defending the Razorback, so they're a good unit to keep inside the Razorback. They just hop out, shotgun blast, and repair as needed. And of course, you also want to throw down that smoke bomb. Right now, Noisy actually keeping his scouts away from the Razorback because he needs to do some capping. Noisy doesn't even have that many units for capping, and I didn't even notice, but Adila lost his Bright Lance. Razorback might also want to consider getting extra armor or yeah, extra armor, just giving an extra 200 hit points, which some people, I know there was a player, Dullahan, who said that he couldn't see justifying getting extra armor, and it's certainly quite a there's quite a cost associated with it. But for a unit that starts out with 400 health and giving it an extra 200, that's a really big thing and does a lot to increase the survivability of the Razorback. And I'm citing Dullahan, who was a good Dawn of War 2 player. Now he's pretty much, I think, either moved on to Company of Heroes 2 or he's just quit. He said he felt he really couldn't justify getting the extra armor for the Razorback. Meanwhile, Red Rupee, on the other hand, who was a Tech Marine main, so he played the hero who most frequently gets the Razorback. His opinion was actually that he just always gets the extra armor now. He doesn't even hesitate to get it. He doesn't even think about it. He just gets it. Just getting an extra 200 hit points on the Razorback. And that was someone who only played the Razorback. I only played the Tech Marine pretty much, although Dullahan probably was a better player than Rupee. Although, speaking of Rupee, I did definitely see some life signs of him streaming himself playing Hearthstone on his stream. Although, I guess at this point, he's just not really interested in Dawn of War 2 anymore. Wow, this Falcon might go down. I think just it's out of range of the las cannon, and Noisy actually chose to get a las cannon. And normally, I would say that a las cannon is very, very risky against Eldar, in part because you have these Howling Banshees, and if the Howling Banshees can get in melee with the Devastators, they will actually probably wipe it entirely, because they can wipe a Devastator from full health. Ooh, the Apothecary is definitely going to go down right here, but the Howling Banshees are also really overstaying their welcome. So Apothecary goes down. Now, interesting weapon choices from both Adila and NoisyElmo. Oh, Razorback goes down from that pulse fire from the Falcon. Adila chose to get the Merciless Witchblade, which burns 15 energy from the target enemy. The Apothecary got the Anointed Power Axe, which both burns energy and drains, so he gets energy back. So there he was trying to get some energy back, but the the Warlock was also draining energy from him. Alright, we do have a Warlock, a Wraith Lord right here. Does have a Bright Lance as well. That's going to make it pretty effective, I think, for helping to deal with this War Truck. And this Wraith Lord is now in quite a bit of trouble. I think Uncle Milty should try to support and push forward, go for the Wraith Lord. He's kind of hanging back with these tank busters. I think he really could have. I think with that support, he could have taken out this Wraith Lord. He went for it with the Storm Boys, and he might even get it with the Storm Boys anyway. Meanwhile, down here, I'm more interested in seeing whether or not this Wraith Lord is going to go down, and you know what? I think it will. But Milty is also being very, very risky here, and I still feel like he should bring up the Tank Bust. He does not bring up the Tank Busters. He's going to lose the Storm Boys for that. So unfortunately, I think that was ill-advised, I really wanted to see him go ahead with these Tank Busters to try to chase after that Wraith Lord. As it is, he lost a squad of Storm Boys and did not even kill the Wraith Lord. Meanwhile, VPs are significantly in favor of the blue team. 458, and now we're down to double digits for the red team, so they really got to make things up in terms of VPs. We see Adila has gotten a Falcon. GiDDoLo went for that Wraith Lord, although there have definitely been times when I've seen GiDDoLo get a Falcon as well. And it's interesting. There are definitely times when I've heard people say that the Falcon is not a good choice for a certain number of reasons based on cost and as well as the way the Wraith Lord is performing right now. But I actually often see some high-level Eldar players get the Falcon. In particular, Adila and GiDDoLo. Those are actually two players who I often see get the Falcon. But I think Adila's going to lose his Falcon right here. And there it goes. I think he even kind of path blocked his Falcon with his own Howling Banshees, although I don't know if he was going to be able to get it out of there anyway. So Falcon's down. We already have a Predator out from NoisyElmo. So Space Marine Predator. Both the Eldar players are in Tier 3, but Adila has suffered a lot of losses, so he doesn't have a lot of squads. GiDDoLo hasn't yet gotten anything out of Tier 3. Farseer goes down there. And these Slugger Boys are also in quite a bit of trouble. I think the Slugger Boys are going to go down. If Milty does not do something about this quickly, he's going to lose the Slugger Boys, and he does lose the Slugger Boys. Oh, no, wait. He actually got them reinforced from the war truck and also put them in there. Wow, that was a really, really close call. If anything, I was thinking that he should have retreated the Slugger Boys and then use aiming what's that from the Shooter Boys. I would still say the way he responded to that, although he got out of there alive with his Slugger Boys, he definitely could have responded better to that situation. I think if he had started moving his Slugger Boys back, used aiming what's that, and then brought the war truck up for support, that would have been good. Meanwhile, Adila is getting hammered over here by Noisy. Noisy with his double scouts, his Devastators. He lost the Razorback, of course, at some point, and now he has his Predator and even Terminators. And now it's actually about to be a triple cap for the red team, so they are managing to pull back. They've got double tanks out. Meanwhile, we've got double D cannons out from the Eldar team. They can, of course, use that to deny VPs. If they can just get a double cap again, that will actually be very, very threatening to the red team, since it can be very, very difficult to get your VPs back if your opponent has a D cannon. I think we're going to see the end of this war truck. So war truck goes down, a bunch of Orc boys get pulled in. Milty, unfortunately, now getting hit a little hard, and I think dropping his micro a little bit. Should have gotten that war truck out of there. As it is, I don't know if this looted tank is going to make it out of there. And you know what? It's definitely not going to make it out of there. One more shot, that's going to be the end of that looted tank. And now we have Devastator Marines that are definitely overextending. So that was a little bit disappointing. Milty just lost a bunch of stuff, and that's going to do a lot to put Adila and GiDDoLo back in the game. Meanwhile, GiDDoLo lost his Dire Avengers at some point, so he doesn't really have repair support for his Wraithlord, although this Wraithlord does have the Wraithborn ability, so it can repair by itself. We're seeing some force melee from the Terminators. Terminators are great for so many reasons. Here we go with a kaboom, and that knocks back the Kommando Knob himself, as well as knocking back those Rangers. A very cheeky and awesome ability, quite possibly the most entertaining things about Orcs in this game. I love that ability. It's one of the few things that ever made me even try Orcs. But this Kommando Knob from Milty, he did get the Sneaky Infiltration Kit, which removes the energy drain from the Kommando Knob, as well as giving him the Grappling Hook ability. Ooh, we got some friendly fire on these Dire Avengers. Grenade going in. I think it's going to be too late. Oh, it might not be too late. Well, just doesn't do enough. Scout's still alive. I think Noisy has not actually lost any units aside from his Razorback. That's the only squad he's lost. We're going to have a Singularity possibly go in, but the Terminators won't be too scared of that, and actually I don't think it's going to go off because they got forced off. But Noisy, now with these level 3 scouts, doing some pretty nice work, and they're able, again, when you have double scouts, you get a lot of repair support, so you can very nicely support vehicles. And Noisy is getting a second Predator, and I like that he's getting a second Predator, making sure he's getting 2 out on the field instead of just upgrading 1. I really like the effect of having 2 Predators out on the field instead of just having 1 upgraded Predator. And then he can slowly start upgrading them to make them even more threatening. But Noisy might want to capture his natural power. As it is, he's going for the VP. He does get hit by a Warp Throw from Adila's Warlock. So Adila's Warlock has an interesting build. He does have Warp Throw. He's also got Champion's Robe and Merciless Witchblade, so he can tank a little bit. But usually when people get these first 2 Wargears, the Merciless Witchblade and the Champion's Robe, they will also get the Heart of Darkness to synergize with those the first 2 pieces of Wargear. As it is, Adila's Warlock kind of has some conflicting interests because he's got Warp Throw, and that's going to take energy, or that's going to use a lot of energy when he wants to also use energy for the Champion's Robe. Meanwhile, he's actually switching out the Champion's Robe for Providence, which will actually, I think, work a little better. Here we go. We have some infiltrated commandos. They do have a rocket launcher. This is now a precarious position for GiDDoLo. He's very, very deep into the firing arc of a las cannon. I think he's actually probably going to lose this Wraithlord at this point. He's going to, you know what? He's trying to tie up the Devastator with his Farseer, as well as bringing in these Howling Banshees, and he actually manages to survive that situation. Meanwhile, these Devastators are in a lot of trouble. So Uncle Milty actually uses the Infiltration Global on them, and I've seen that from Quebec. He does that in 1v1 on his own squads to save them. So now we're seeing Milty do it as a team play option. I think that's going to be the end of this Howling Banshee. Yep. All right. So Adila now this is actually GiDDoLo taking those losses. Meanwhile, this Wraith Lord is still alive. Maybe if we get War Truck, that's not going to do anything to the Wraith Lord. But we have a one Shooter Boy squad, dangerously low on health. And I think this is finally going to be the end of this Wraith Lord. A bunch of rockets going in from the Kommando knob. Wow, and we had this Shooter Boy squad, very, very lucky to survive, but those Shooter Boys, the Shooter knobs, or just the knobs in general on the Orc Boy squads, really do a lot to increase the survivability of those squads. And now, Noisy and Milty are looking very, very strong. They don't have many VPs left, but I mean, if you look at the armies, their armies are huge. Milty has double War Trucks for some reason. I have no idea what that's for. Meanwhile, we got a squad of Howling Banshees right here, but they are pretty well countered by these double shotgun scouts. And, I mean, the Banshees are just taking damage. They're going to approach, but they're just going to get shotgun blast, and they're going to take a lot more damage. There's actually, I mean, against double shotgun scouts, especially when the shotgun scouts are bunched up together, there's actually really not a whole lot that double Howling Banshees can do. Because they're just going to get blasted, they're going to take range damage, they're going to get knocked down, and then while they're knocked down, they're going to take a lot of damage, and then if they get back up, there's just another shotgun blast waiting for them. And that's one of the reasons I think getting double shotgun scouts is a very, very good idea against Howling Banshees, and it's something I personally recommend doing against Eldar. We're going to see a Singularity right here. No, Singularity over here. Singularity over here. Do we have double D cannons? Double D cannons? Alright, scouts got pulled in. No models actually died, but they certainly lost a lot of health. Yeah, I think this D cannon shot over here, and then this D cannon shot by the VP. We have a War Truck driving around. Now this War Truck has Commandos in it, apparently. And we actually have an Apothecary with the armor of the Apothecary, and he's actually switched out the purification, right, to get the improved medical equipment. But, I mean, the healing over time that you can get can be pretty beastly, I think, with a unit as tough as Terminators, because they're just going to be doing so much damage while not really suffering that much in return, just because of all the healing they're going to get, and there's so much energy to heal these Terminators. They're just going to be healing so much. And that's actually going to be, I think, really tough for Adila to deal with. That being said, the VPs are at 1-1, and they're actually about to go 2-1 in favor of Adila and GiDDoLo. So they got to be careful. The red team has been doing very well in many, many ways. I think right now they're going to try to get this Farseer off the point. She's going to finish the capture, I think. She actually uses Spirit Zones. And even though they're going to get the capture back, that was not good for them, because that means they are going to give up maybe another 15 or so VPs, maybe only about 10, at a time when they don't have many more VPs to give. Now this here, I was about to say that was a risky situation for the Terminators, but the Howling Banshees actually don't stay in there. Although here comes some Shotgun Scouts as well as a double Chaos Predator, just double Predators. And I mean, double Predators is pretty threatening. Noisy actually Noisy has not chosen to get extra armor, very interestingly. Which is, it's actually kind of surprising at this point. Oh, now he's getting it. And I was about to say, like, well, what could it be saving for? Noisy literally has no population room to get any additional squads, so now he is just upgrading his Predators, actually choosing to get the las cannons first, which is, that is curious. The las cannon, it's been confusing, because there definitely have been players who, they keep the autocannon. You definitely see, I mean, we saw Noisy stick with the autocannons for a while. I definitely see, Dark Riku stick with the autocannons for a while, and at the same time, the las cannon can definitely still hit infantry. I've definitely seen it hit infantry, but the autocannon Predator does seem to hit infantry more reliably, and then that las cannon's also just an expensive upgrade. But I mean, Noisy's at a point now where he has plenty of resources. He has plenty of resources, and yet no population, so he can just put the resources into these Predators without much of an issue. And even if he loses one, by the time he loses one, he'll have enough resources to get a new Predator or a Land Raider. infiltrated scouts, and we don't have any rangers or anything, so nothing's actually going to be able to detect these infiltrated scouts. Might have a grenade go in on the double grenades going in on the D cannon, going to blow it up, very nearly killed it. And then we even have maybe just a spot on the fire prism. I'm actually surprised that the Predators did not try to push forward and go for that fire prism, because with double las cannon Predators, they should be able to just drive forward against the fire prism. The fire prism shouldn't really be able to do much about that, but as it is, Noisy's just kind of idling his two fully upgraded Predators when he could probably just drive it over here and just kill this fire prism. As it is, are we going to have an Eldritch Storm here, or probably just another Singularity? But you know what, I think, oh, you know what, this is probably the better play. He's going to choose to come over here and maybe try to finish off this Falcon. And the Falcon, although it's going to be a little bit tough, it might take a few shots. Oh my god, a rocks! That's got to be the end of this. Yeah, there's nothing this Falcon can do, because these Predators are just going to drive around, and that should be the end. The only problem is that now they're threatening, because Noisy is committing over here. He's not paying attention to his own lanes as much, so it's actually about to be a double cap in favor of the blue team. All right, fire prism taken out, and we even have a third tank now, a looted tank. But these tanks need to get back the hell over to the middle, because now it's a double cap in favor of Adila and GiDDoLo, and there's not a whole lot of time left in this game. They need to just get a unit on the point, and I think it's going to have to be the Terminators. They're going to want to get the Terminators on the point, going to want to get the Predators back here, just get anything on the point, because they don't have that much time. But I like just moving the Terminators forward, taking advantage of the fact that right now the Terminators cannot be knocked down. Unfortunately, there is something over here getting a decap off. It's a 2-to-1 in the blue team's favor, but Adila's going to lose this squad of Dire Avengers in the process. One more cannon shot, but I think it's out of range. Oh, it doesn't even kill it. Actually misses. And this fire prism is seemingly in a lot of trouble. And it's actually just, well, it's still a 1-to-1 cap in favor of, and now it's a no-cap game. Fire prism going all the way into base. Again, these things could all just push into the base and just take that stuff out. And I think they just need to go for the fire prism, but they don't even really need to, but they could, and they could take it out and then get rid of it permanently. And now the D cannons are getting destroyed. D cannons are taking damage. One D cannon down. Oh, Terminator's down. Getting healing, a lot of healing, but at the same time, here is the Eldritch Storm though, and Noisy a little slow on his reactions there, quite surprisingly. And now both of these Predators are effectively haywired and can't do any damage. Now is actually the time for the D cannon to take shots at the Predators as well as the fire prism. And they're shooting at the infantry. I don't know if they don't have sight, but they really should have taken shots. They could have finished off both of those Predators in that situation. Now the Predators are back online and they're shooting again, and I think this is going to be a win for Noisy and Uncle Milty. Very, very close, and yes, that is definitely the game right there. Pretty exciting game. Hope you enjoyed the cast. Have a good night.